Hi, designers. If you've ever wanted to have 2026 be your most profitable year yet, most stable, and you wanted to invest in your business in order to make that happen, then our Black Friday sale is for you. It starts today and it goes on until midnight, December 1st. And if you've ever thought about investing in your business because you want to be more profitable, you want to be more stable, then this is the sale for you. This is hard to believe. However, the presets are $9.99. That's right, $10. They can be yours. 6 presets so you can have your website, your social media, everything curated in a way that looks beautiful and flawless for those photos we all have on our roll on our phones that are not quite right and the color's a little bit off. We've got you covered. If you want mentorship hours with me, also, there's a discount. And lastly, wait for it. If I had something techie here with a drum roll, I would use it, but I don't. $400 off the Profit Academy. That's right. So make sure you go visit the Business of Beautiful Spaces, or you can also visit the Profit Academy to get all that information. And you have until Monday at midnight, and then the deal is over. Enjoy.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Business of Beautiful Spaces. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on one of the most powerful storytelling tools in our industry, our photography, our photo shoots. My guest is the wonderfully talented Candice Brook, a Charleston-based photographer known for capturing interiors that feel authentic and soulful as the spaces themselves. With nearly 20 years behind the camera, Candice has built a reputation for helping designers turn their finished projects into features, press coverage, and marketing magic. She doesn't just photograph rooms. She tells the story of designers' work in a way that gets noticed. This conversation is full of fresh perspective, a few hard truths, and plenty of inspiration on how to make your photography work harder for your business. Candice is going to share her approach to capturing spaces beautifully while also creating content that builds connection, visibility, and momentum for your brand. It's honest, it's practical, and it might just change the way you think about your next photo shoot. Let's dive in. Hi there, interior design lovers. Welcome back to the Business of Beautiful Spaces, the podcast where we blend design inspiration with all behind-the-scenes tips and tricks you need to thrive in your business. I'm your host, Laura Thornton, and with over 27 years in this interior design game and running a 7-figure design company, trust me, I've seen it all. I want to be your interior design bestie. I want to help you build the business of your dreams, make more money, and yes, ditch the stress along the way. I've been doing this for a long time, and now I'm sharing my knowledge with all of you, my fellow designers and decorators. All I ask in return is that you like, review, and follow this podcast wherever you listen, so other designers can find us and learn more too. So grab a coffee, get comfy, and let's dive into making 2025 your best business year yet. Welcome, Candice. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to dive right in with having you tell us what drew you to photography, and then how did you evolve into the career that you have today working with interior designers?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chit chat about all the photography things. I know it's such a huge part of the final process of every project that interior designers work on. So love to be a part of that. But I have been a photographer what feels like my entire life. I just turned 40, but I became a photographer when I was 21. And I lived in Orange County. I now live in Charleston, but I was born and raised in Huntington Beach, Orange County, California. And my husband and I, we were high school sweethearts, met at 16, got married at 21, had a baby at 23, just like very typical little love story there. And I went to college for communications and got married and hired a wedding photographer and thought, oh my gosh, they are charging an arm and a leg. So that just made my business wheels spin. And, a few months later, my husband and I decided that we were going to be wedding photographers. So in California, that's a huge market. We jumped in full on, which I will refer back to that story because a lot of the same marketing strategies and submission to blogs and getting my work featured, a lot of the same things I was doing almost 15 years ago is still working today, which is really encouraging. But after weddings, we ended up having 2 locations and an internship program and a social media branch of our business. We started shooting product photography. And I was introduced to an interior designer in Newport Beach who was launching a pillow line. And that just led to us starting to shoot interiors on top of the products. So, long story short, we just over years of practice, years of clients, years of all of the things, we pivoted. And here in Charleston, I am exclusively interior design photography, and I love it. So that's kind of the gist of how it all came to be.
Well, I am going to Charleston for the first time in April for one of my girlfriend's 50th birthday. So after this, I'm going to have to ask you for a few recommendations. But I mean,
So
I can't
great.
imagine how easy it is to be taking photos of beautiful things because your interior design and architecture in Charleston is spectacular. Like I'm
It's
very excited.
incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
turn one way and you've got a pink, gorgeous wall, and then you turn another way and you've
Whole
got
house can
brick.
be pink. It's spectacular. I love how
Yeah.
brave everybody is. It's awesome. You're going to be very bored if you come to Toronto. We have a lot of cement and beige, where you have the history and I mean, honestly, like every picture just looks spectacular. So I'm very excited to see all of it, but I can't imagine that that's just around you every day, all the time. It's amazing.
Yes, very fun.
So you've been featured in many big named, whether that's, I don't know if it's online or if it's magazines, but can you walk us through how you ended up
Yeah.
with so many fabulous big named companies? And
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, let's just keep in mind I've been in business, since I was 21 and I just turned 40. So there is definitely
yes,
years
decades, two
of
decades. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't want anybody to be discouraged. Like I just started my business, 2 years ago and I haven't been featured. It will come, especially if you're consistent. I mean, I've dedicated my entire career to photography or some type of content creation. And so your time will come. So don't be discouraged. But yes, I have been featured all over. I actually can't think of a magazine that I haven't been featured in, to be honest. I mean, it's been um, I have them listed on my website, but it is
Yeah,
just
InStyle
on and
magazine.
on and on and on and on.
Yeah, I was like, wow. And then when you said
Yeah.
you were 40, I was like, you have been a very busy woman.
Yes, but again, 20 years,
I
20
know,
years.
I know, but
But
you've still been busy. That is
yes,
still, yeah,
still been busy.
yeah,
Well, let me just tell you, and this goes back to my comment about, I'm still doing the same tricks I was doing in my 20s. As far as getting featured and social media content and getting on blogs and in magazines is I create content on purpose. So whenever I'm on a photo shoot, whether that's, a paid photo shoot or actually a free photo shoot, which I want to talk about as well, because that's part of my marketing strategy. But if it's a paid client, I am always looking through the lens of, okay, what does the client need? But then what do I need to make sure my client gets featured? So I will have, the client shot list, but then I'll also have my own mental shot list. And at this point, it's all up in my brain. But when I first started, it was definitely a hard piece of paper that I'd bring with me. And a lot of the features and publications that I've been in were back when I was doing wedding photography. And we would reach out to magazines and or blogs and we would say, hey, Christmas is around the corner. Or Valentine's Day is around the corner. We want to create some awesome, beautiful content that can be featured in your magazine that is holiday themed. I'm going to work with this person, this person. For those of you that can't see me, I'm throwing up fingers over
yeah.
here saying, doing like a checklist here. But I would say, I'm going to work with this dress designer, this cake artist, this whoever, this other vendor. And they would all be larger names. And I would say together, we're going to put together this beautiful Christmas shoot and we'd love to submit it. And because we had already maybe had features or people had already seen my work around, it was sight unseen. Yes, shoot it, photograph it, and submit it. We want it. So I do the same thing now with interior design photography. So I was just on a voice memo yesterday back and forth with a designer here in Charleston. And, the date of us recording this is right before Halloween. And I was talking about Valentine's Day content, I was talking about Christmas content. I was talking about what can we make that we can preemptively reach out to all of these publications and say, hey, what are you looking for? Do you want, 10 different beautiful doors that have different wreaths for the holidays? Because we'll go out and photograph it. Do you want, a beautiful Charleston Southern Charm looking home with a massive, 30-foot Christmas tree and beautiful stockings? We'll make that happen. So we will actually preemptively design and create content that magazines want to see, if I don't have anything to submit on behalf of clients. So first, I'm always trying to submit, paid work where I'm working with clients. But if nothing's really coming of that, I team up with awesome interior designers, and together we actually create content to submit. So that's what I'm working on right now. I'm already working on Christmas, which is really late in the game. Christmas should have been probably talked about in August. Actually, backing up on that thought, because I've been doing this so long, you start to notice a calendar cadence. And August is really when you should be thinking about Christmas. And then the next holidays start to trickle out after August. So we're doing really late to the game. We're talking about Christmas, but we're talking about New Year's content and Valentine's Day content right now. So
I'm going to rewind a little bit too, just for if there's anyone listening who has not done a photo shoot yet with an interior design photographer, and you had referenced the client shot list and your shot list. So these are the lists that we make as the designer that we think these are the things that are the most telling about our design, or the things that we want to focus on, or what we really love about our design. And we pass it off to our photographer like Candice and say, these are the images I would like to capture. And then I have always found that I used to give the list and end up working with the same. Once you find your people, you want
right.
to use the similar photographer, like the one that works with you well. And so I use the same one most of the time, provided I can get him. And his eye is so good and so much better that when I let him just do it, I get him.
Right.
Like I don't even see that as being special until I see it in his eyes. So we can provide a shot list, but like you said, you also have your shot list of what you want out of it, regardless of if you're going to use that for, another purpose. I just wanted to clarify, just if someone was like, what's a shot list? That's what it is. It's just if we provide what we want out of the session that we're going to have with the photographer. So on that same path, what do you find is a successful photo? Like, do you have those moments where a designer says, I want this, and you're seeing something completely different? And then like, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I was totally going to add to that thought because I still definitely find value in an interior designer coming to me and saying, hey, these are the 3 or 5 things that I want to make sure gets photographed on our shoot today. Because oftentimes I might not know, another agenda that they want to use the photos for. Like, for example, I might be going into a photo shoot and making sure that I'm shooting content for social media and social media and maybe press, but they might in the back of their minds be working with, their website designer and they need a shot for their website. Well, that is completely different type of photography than me shooting for Instagram. Instagram is tight, vertical photos of lots of details, of course, the hero shot of the space. But when you're shooting web, you're wanting to shoot, okay, well, now we have to shoot horizontal. We have to scoot way back. We have to get a major wide shot. We have to make sure that there's white space in that photo so that they can put text and copy over it. So there's just like a completely different approach. Lately, especially in the Charleston area, a lot of the designers that I work with are working on projects that are eventually going to turn into Airbnbs. And part of the package that they've submitted to their clients is, making sure that they provide also images of the space to make their listing. Well, that's completely different as well. So if I don't know that, then
Right.
I'm going to fail. So that's always good to communicate. Since this podcast, episode is specifically dedicated on, to marketing and repurposing content, which we haven't even talked about that. I'd love to dive into just
Well,
ways we can repurpose content. But I definitely always, without fail, will not leave a photo shoot without content that I know that I can attempt to submit, or at least have for social media collabs with other, with everyone that was involved. So, real quick, I just want to actually add to that thought because I think that's so great for listeners. Um, Whenever I'm on a photo shoot, I also am making sure that I'm taking pictures of maybe details of the wallpaper, details of furniture that I know comes from a local store, because I know on the back end, it's only going to help the designer for me to make sure that I get content for their vendors so that when they post on social, they can be tagging the wallpaper designer, or we can all go in and do a collaborative post together. And that only helps everybody that was involved. So even though, the wallpaper designer might not even know it's shoot day, or, that wallpaper was ordered a year and a half ago and it was finally installed. I now have created content for so many different vendors that participate. And that only helps from a marketing perspective.
I love those points. I love that it's making it very clear that you know what you want to use these photos for. But also, if there's any designers or decorators listening who have not worked photographer, you have to be very clear about what you're allowed to do with those photos, because it's not always your free will to do whatever you want with them. It's whatever you agree with your photographer and what they're going to allow you to do with those photos. I loved all of that. Okay, so what is the biggest mistake you see interior designers make on a photo shoot?
Oh my goodness. Okay, biggest mistake.
And it's not to throw us under the bus, it's so we can learn, right? I mean, you're like, oh no.
You know what? Yeah, I was not prepared for that question, but the first thing that honestly came to mind is just not having the mindset of how far photography can go. Just having the mindset of, hey, a project's done. I need to hire a photographer so that I can get social media content, or, not knowing that content can turn into Pinterest content that links to, a URL on your website that creates SEO traffic. Not knowing that the images can be repurposed, to submit and give, and maybe bridge gaps between you and somebody that you want to work with more closely. Like, for example, a builder, making sure that, hey, while you're inside the house, can you also take a picture of the outside of the house? Hey, can you take a picture of the landscaping? Because those are images that you can, invite the landscaper to coffee and say, hey, I was able to grab these, 10 images from the shoot. I want to make sure that you have them. And I'd love to work with you in the future, same with a builder. So I would say the mistake is just not thinking through all the marketing after the fact that you can do with photography to grow your business and get more clientele.
So let's dive into that, because we kind of touched on the maximizing the value of the photo shoot, but now we're going to, like you were saying, this is the focus of it. Let's dive into that, and that, like, leveraging these images for the marketing success. So I love that you're bridging it and you're working with other vendors on the job site to try and help. Obviously, you're also going to try and subsidize more business, but also maybe the cost of the photography. If you all say, well, we're going to bring someone in, would everyone be willing to pitch in? What else can you see photography being a tool that we can maximize for marketing?
Well, that's a good question. I'm wondering if you could what's maybe re-ask it. Let me see
Yeah,
if I
sure.
can think of like
So I
something
know
new.
we're talking about like how we're going to take these photo shoots, like, because you're going to teach us how to rethink about them in ways that it's not just about here's the 6 shots that I'm getting out of this house or this room or whatever space it is. And now I'm going to take these photos and what else can I do with them? Because you already mentioned that we have to shoot differently if we're going to use it for Instagram and
Uh-huh.
like what else can we, like web you covered, like is there anything
Okay.
that I'm missing that people could start thinking about these photo shoots as not just the 6 images of that room or whatever. What else can they think about in terms of leveraging these photos to help their business get more business?
Right. So I'll just run through this. This might help answer the question. So for my own business, and for clients when I'm hired by an interior designer, I am always going through this mental shot list. I'm going through making sure that I get content to submit to magazines, making sure that I'm getting content that can turn into future Pinterest content, making sure that I'm getting reels, which is just quick little snippets of video content, which, by the way, I have something called, gosh, what is it? I think it's called CapCut.
Yep.
And it is an app that I pay for, and it is the easiest way for me to make reels that stand out from others. So I definitely recommend that everybody just grab some type of reel app that they can use. Again, I use CapCut. My son also has a clothing company. He uses CapCut all the time. We're big fans of that. I'm always making sure that I'm getting content, um, that they can use for networking in the future, or for me to bridge a connection with maybe somebody that I want to work with. I just had a photo shoot. Here's an example of what I mean. I just had a photo shoot with a designer, and it was actually a free photo shoot because I am personally putting together a coffee table book here in Charleston. It's called The Best of Charleston Interior Design. It's a coffee table book that's going to be gifted across Charleston. So that's part of my marketing budget for 2026, is creating something beautiful and lasting and timeless. Well, anyone that participates in that coffee table book is gets a free shoot. And they get a gift of the coffee table book as well. So that's been an amazing way for me to meet the best of the best, but also, network and just like get boots on the ground to get my calendar filled. And that has led to just so much business for me in the future, and a lot of leads. But when I was on one of those free shoots with a designer, she had me photograph a kitchen. Well, the kitchen's in the coffee table book. It is beautiful. I love the way the photos came out. And they are going in the coffee table book. But then um, I um, I actually had her reach back out and said, "Hey, the Charleston Home and Design magazine would also like to feature these." So I already, because I've been doing this for 20 something years, already had exactly the kind of content that a magazine would need. The only difference is, excuse me. The only difference is I had to brighten them up. I had to make them, style them a little bit differently from an editing perspective, to submit to magazines. So that's another thing to think of, is every time you have a different place that let's say it's Pinterest or magazine or coffee table book or web, there is a slight different edit also that you need to put across the photos. So that's something too, when you're hiring a photographer, you want to make sure that they kind of have those skills to be able to adapt to what you need the images for as well.
Got it.
So
I have to ask, this is like a little hard left. How many images are you averaging? I feel like magazine, Pinterest, Reels, video content. I was like, this is a lot.
so I
How
I
many too far?
are. You need to be closer.
Honestly, I'm only shooting about 500 to about 1,200 images per shoot. The
Please.
client does not see all of
Yes,
those.
fair.
That is not what I deliver. But it's having them on my hard drive so that I can pull from, these photos, for whatever purpose comes in the future. So the client only gets about 150 to maybe 300 images, and a lot of them are duplicates because I have also learned in interior design that there's a lot of people are very particular. Like one shot might be angled just slightly off, and they don't like that shadow or that teapot that the owner has left or whatnot. So there's a lot of photos, but I dwindle them down and just really give the best of the best.
Got it. So
Yeah.
again, off topic, but quick question. So I have multiple clients in my life who were okay with us photographing and asked us specifically not, even though it's in our contract, not to have it on the website, didn't want their home on display. Do you have any of those issues at all? Because when you're submitting to magazines, I'm going to assume you have permission of the homeowner.
So the photographer, I feel, and this is definitely not legal advice. I do not know what the answer to that would be from like a legal perspective, but I feel pretty protective being once removed, being that the designer, hired me to photograph this project, and we both have full rights and exclusivity to the images, and we can do whatever we want with them. I have had people in the past that have, yes, been more private, or for example, maybe we know we're going to submit something, and so we cannot share that across our socials. But I haven't run across a situation where maybe a client has said, hey, you can't have this up on the web. So,
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's also just touch on how soon after a project is done do you want to come into that room?
I don't care when I come. It's the designers that are very particular that want me to come in within like days or weeks after, because once the client moves in, which I'm about to have my 5th child, so I am fully aware of what happens when clients move in.
Yeah.
But I usually people want me to come in really quickly after a project's completed, just so that we can get that perfect look. But as I'm creating content, I have found, especially for the coffee table book project that I'm working on, which has been huge. It's been a 6-month project that I've been heads down on. That has been interesting because we're actually backtracking and going into designers' best homes that they designed over the last few years. Mm-hmm. So now we're walking into spaces that are 2 or 3 years old, and it's easy. For me, it's easy. It might stress somebody else out, but we just move things out of frame. I take an iPhone picture of what a kitchen looks like, with all the Keurigs and the coffee mugs and the magnets on the fridge and, all the things. And then we just remove it all and put it just out of frame. And then we just put it all back, when we're done. So that doesn't stress us out, with that. But that's another thing that I was going to mention, since we're talking about content, and people who are listening, and if you're new to your business and you're thinking, man, I did a shoot, or I did a project that's, a year old at this point, or 2 years old. That is not old. There's no such thing as old when it comes to content. If you have not maximized that house, or that project, or that bathroom, or that kitchen, please contact a client and please go back and get content of it. You can still be submitting things, and magazines don't care, one way or the other, if this was taken last week or 3 years ago. If it's new and it's interesting to them and their readers are going to like it, they're going to share it.
That's awesome. And then we were kind of starting to touch on the social media strategies, which is what a lot of people, I think, use as their marketing avenues as, solopreneurs. What would be your key advice with the social media? Like, that's just Instagram, for example. What would be your key advice for the best case photography for that?
I, for the most part, will try and post things twice in two different ways on Instagram. I'll do an actual post, which has a carousel of images with music, with location tagged, with anyone that's involved in the actual photo shoot. I'll also add the designer as a collaborator so that they post it on their feed as well. And we all share comments, which just makes the post look bigger and better. But then I also will post the exact same images through like an app like CapCut, and I'll make a reel out of it and I'll post that and just pick a different cover image. And even though it's the same project side by side on my grid, I do it because it's different algorithms that people are using. For example, if you watch Reels 24/7, that's what's going to be popping up in your Instagram feed. If you're looking at posts, that's what's going to be showing up in your Instagram feed. So just making sure that you're hitting those different, pockets, and not just posting an image and hoping that it gets to the people that it needs to get to. I mean, I could even do a third way and post it on stories. But I post it all the time. Another thing too is I have a ton of content right now that sometimes just for the sake of time hasn't allowed me to post it twice because I just have so much to push out on social right now. But I know that once the coffee table book is complete, which is happening actually this Wednesday, the content itself is going to slow down. And so I'm going to be pulling right back to that first post I did, at the beginning of the summer, just finding a different cover image and resharing it, and try and, repurpose content I photographed in the spring and the summer.
Love that. And is there any trends that you're seeing right now with design and photography that designers should be aware of?
I wouldn't say trends. I think it's all, the basic things that we've talked about, like reels are huge. That's what Instagram is showing to their audience. But I have seen styles shift. And actually, as a photographer, that has been a little bit tricky for me because here in the Charleston area, it seems like a lot of people really want those bright, very white, minimal shadows. It almost looks like real estate photography, a type of shot. But I personally lean towards more moody and shadows and, livable type of, photography. So you can take one image and you can edit it one way or the other. And I actually sometimes will even photograph it so that it can be edited one way or the other. Because I know, that's another part of making sure you get content that can go across multiple platforms is making sure you can edit it multiple different ways. But yeah, I've seen that trend, and that I think is local to where you are. So, I think the East Coast is more in that moody vibe, but for some reason, Charleston and I would say California is very like bright and, clean and just less shadows, I guess.
And if you had to try to narrow it down to one best tip for a designer or decorator leveraging their photography for a marketing strategy, what would it be?
Well, my one tip is always just to make sure that you get it done. So I have I know that's very broad, so let me narrow it down. I have spent a lot of time with interior designers, and part of what makes interior designers so good at their job is they're so detail focused and they're so perfectionists, but in a good way. It's what makes them attractive to the clients and their details and all the things. But sometimes I think that will hold you back. And sometimes just like getting content that might not be perfect, but it's hey, behind the scenes, this is what we're working on. Or, hey, this room's not quite complete, but the truth is it might not ever be complete because then the homeowner moves in and they're going to add their weird plants or whatever, who knows, So it's like, just don't miss the opportunity. And I would book a shoot, and I would just get what you can get, because leveraging that stuff for marketing is going to push you so much further than just like waiting for it to be 100% complete, done.
Yeah. And for like us, most designers, it's never going to be done the way we wanted it to be done. So
Right.
I learned so much today. And I mean, I think the big key takeaway is if you're going to work with, like, I know it's all about leveraging and marketing, but really, if you're going to work with a photographer, there are some questions that need to be asked. And if they're not asking you of all of the things that you just taught us about all the different ways that you can take photos, all the different ways it can be edited, all the different things you want to use it for, that these are conversations you need to be having with your photographer before you decide who's coming in to work on their project and to photograph those images for you. Because I have worked with a lot of photographers and I haven't been asked any of these questions ever, which I think are paramount. So you've taught me a lot today too. So thank you for that.
Yes,
Where
absolutely.
can our listeners find you? Can you give them your socials and all the great places to reach out to you?
Yes, absolutely. My website is markbrook.com. My Instagram account is markbrook photography. And my email is candice@markbrook.com. And I would love to, photograph anyone's projects that's listening. I travel all up and down the East Coast. So if anyone is, over on this side, please, reach out.
It's amazing. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.